Welcome to Advocacy Unplugged, the show that will dissect critical policy issues, explore the art of advocacy, and share insights on how to make your voice heard in today's ever-changing political landscape. I'm your host, John Ravitz, the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Business Council of Westchester. Advocacy Unplugged is part of the BCW's podcast network. Today's topic is an important one. It's one that every community is facing, and that's the issue of childcare. And we're very lucky to have one of the leading advocates for childcare, not just in Westchester County, but throughout New York State and the country, and that's Kathleen Halas, the Executive Director of the Childcare Council of Westchester. Kathy has served as the Executive Director of the Childcare Council of Westchester since February of 2003. A childcare resource and referral agency, the Council has been promoting safe, quality, and affordable childcare as a catalyst for families' self-sufficiency and well-being, school readiness, and workforce preparedness for over 50 years. The Council proudly supports Westchester's childcare and after-school community of over 700 programs serving children from birth to 12 years. And the Council was honored with an organization's Changemaker Award from Nonprofit Westchester in December of 2021. Kathy is currently the co-chair of the Westchester Families Task Force with Board of Legislator Nancy Barr, and as a founding board member and past president of Nonprofit Westchester, she now serves on its Public Policy Committee. Kathy is a current member and a past co-chair of the Westchester Women's Agenda, and she was appointed to the New York State Citizens Review Eastern Region panel by New York State Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, and now serves as the co-chair of the Eastern panel. Ms. Halas also serves on Governor Hochul's Child Care Affordability Task Force, following a nomination by New York State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and she has just recently joined Senator Christian Gillibrand's Child Care Working Group. So Kathy, welcome, and you are very busy working on all levels of government.
Thank you, John. So happy to be here. This is great.
So I looked up the definition of child care, and it was pretty simple, which means that there's a lot more that goes into it than just the definition. So they said child care is a noun, and it is the action of skill of looking after children and the care of children by a daycare center, babysitter, or provider while parents are working. So it's pretty broad, but there's a lot, as I said, that goes into the art of childcare and the skill level for childcare, but more importantly, the need for childcare.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit first about what you've seen changing your role as the Executive Director of the Child Care Council and the work that you're doing.
So I just want to say with regard to the definition, it's too bad the word babysitter is in there because I think historically the profession or the field has not gotten the respect it deserves because people have not really understood how important those early years are. And actually, if you want to ensure that there are great outcomes for kids, it's the birth to age 5 that is the time period where where you really need to invest the most. And in the 20-so years that I've been doing this, I've actually seen, I think, much greater recognition of the importance of the work and the fact that not everybody can do it, that it requires great skill and knowledge, and that the benefits are immense, for the children themselves who are lucky enough to experience a high quality program, but also for the parents who can focus on work and not be worried about how their children are doing. So it's what we call a 2-generation benefit because it impacts current workforce, making people available for work. But done well, it also is laying the groundwork for the future.
Well, and again, you have been so helpful to us at the Business Council of Westchester by really giving us the information and educating us. And this goes back 10 years when we started to try to engage businesses to get more involved in their employees' child care issues. Because as you said, it's important for businesses and employers to understand what their employees are having to deal with every day. And to get the best productivity, you want to be able to make sure that that issue hopefully is resolved.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, you said what's been different over the time we've been doing this. Having an ally like the Business Council of Westchester has really, I think, brought a level of visibility and respect, to the issue that it did not enjoy before. So thank you.
Well, it's a two-way street. And one thing we should mention, and you do serve now on Governor Hochul's statewide task force, but we had meetings with then Lieutenant Governor Hochul.
Yes. Yeah.
When she wanted to make childcare one of the issues in her portfolio as Lieutenant Governor, and she saw that Westchester really was a leader thanks to the Child Care Council of Westchester. Tell us a little bit about how that relationship has evolved.
Yeah, well, I was named to the task force in this past year, and under Governor Hochul, there have been some tremendous strides made in childcare. Most notably, the expansion of income eligibility for childcare assistance. It used to be limited to families up to 200% of the federal poverty level, which years ago might have been maybe $35,000 a year for a family of two. And so what does that mean? That means if your gross income was $40,000, you were somehow having to figure out how to shoulder a childcare bill of $18,000, right? I'm not great in math, but I know those numbers, don't work.
Pretty significant.
And in 2 years, under Governor Hochul, that income eligibility is now at the max allowed by the feds, 85% of state median income, which is about 350%. So it's almost double. And all those families absolutely need the help. So that's been wonderful to see. And I do remember meeting then Lieutenant Governor at a Business Council Westchester event that you sponsored for us, connecting us with employers. And she participated that day and spoke very personally and passionately about the issue. And that has made a tremendous difference. The task force issued a wonderful report that came out in mid-April, and it is a wonderful roadmap for the other strides that the state has to take in order to get to what we would call almost universal childcare, so that it's really available to just about everybody. That's what we need.
And we want to break it really down on the issues that you're facing on the county, state, and on the federal level. This is John Ravitz, the Executive Vice President of the Business Council of Westchester. You're listening to Advocacy Unplugged, part of the BCW Podcast Network. And our guest today is Kathleen Halas, who is the Executive Director of the Child Care Council of Westchester. So let's take the county level first, because the Westchester County also is trying to be a leader, working with your organization to really not only raise awareness, but to make it more affordable for families to be able to have safe childcare for sustainable childcare as well. And the county last year created the Westchester Works Child Care Scholarship. Talk to us a little bit about that.
There isn't a day that goes by that I don't remember how lucky I am to be in Westchester. I'm working with, certainly allies like the Business Council, but also the partnership from Westchester government, both from the administrative level with County Executive George Latimer, but also the Board of Legislators. And you're right. I mean, the cost of living is a little bit higher in Westchester. Cost of childcare is higher in Westchester than other parts of the state. So both the County Exec and the Board of Legislators were very receptive to the idea of basically bringing back a scholarship program for working families just over income for childcare assistance. And I'm delighted to say that it goes up now for working families up to 500% of the federal poverty level, which for a family of four is actually a little bit higher than $120,000. I hope I got the number right, because it just changed as of June 1st. So last year, we actually approved 432 families with 565 children for these scholarships, and the scholarships averaged about $700 a month, covering about 60% of the cost of care. So families obviously still had a significant, bill of their own, so they had skin in the game, if you will, but the scholarship made it doable for them. And I think, again, it reflects the county's understanding, particularly at a time when I think almost every industry is having trouble finding workers, right? That we want to remove the affordability barrier for childcare, and they have largely done that. And I would like to add that we closed the scholarship as of May 1st, but as of June 1st, again, all the income eligibility numbers changed. So there are current Westchester Works recipients who are now eligible for child care assistance we're going to help those families make that move. So Westchester Works is now open again, happy to say.
That's great. And let's let people know, because the Child Care Council of Westchester did a tremendous job letting the word out about this new scholarship. Can you give your website, and if people want to learn more about the scholarship, what they should do?
Sure. So actually the best thing to do, John, is to call us at 914-761-3456, extension 140. And we have trained specialists, bilingual, who can screen families for eligibility for both child care assistance and the Westchester Works Scholarship, help with those applications. And if there are families who are also looking for child care or after school or summer camp, we can help with that as well.
That's great. And again, this is a program that obviously, hopefully, will be sustainable, and that the commitment from both the county executive as well as the Board of Legislature is key in that, and we'll continue to advocate for them to continue the program and move forward.
And we appreciate that. As far as I know, Westchester County is the only county that offers a program of this nature. And I think, I'd love to see other counties, do the same.
Let's talk now on the state level, because again, you sit on two different panels that you were appointed to by the two leaders, by actually all three leaders. So you've hit the trifecta.
Right.
You have the governor, and you have the Speaker of the Assembly, and the majority leader. But you mentioned universal child care. And we at the Business Council of Westchester put that as one of the issues that we supported in our legislative agenda. But when you hear the word universal, a lot of different things pop up, right? Is it manageable? Is it sustainable? First of all, let's talk about the need, why universal child care, and really what the goals are for that program.
Right. Well, yeah, so before we get to the probable price tag, which can be the piece that people find difficult, I want to point out that historically the attitude toward childcare nationally in the U.S. has been parents have to figure it out. And most of the available funding was really came about during the age of welfare reform as a means of helping people transition from welfare to work. It was not a child development initiative of any kind. And again, it was targeting folks who were not working, and then it was available to families with very, very low incomes. In contrast, just about every developed country with whom we compete on the global stage makes childcare much more available and affordable for everybody with few strings attached. And as a result, if you look at the percentage of women in the workforce in the U.S. compared to other countries, we're way behind. We're way behind. So Quebec, I think maybe a decade ago, did a pilot where they made childcare available to just about anybody for $5 a day. And it brought a huge number of people back into the workforce. The program paid for itself within a matter of years. And I believe it has been rolled out throughout the entire country. Not without some difficulties, because I think demand went up so quickly and so significantly that they did not necessarily have the childcare in place to accommodate that demand, but they're getting there. So there is an economist by the name of James Heckman, who's at the University of Chicago, has done tremendous research on childcare. And he asserts that for every dollar invested in high-quality childcare, you get a return of at least $8, if not 13. And the 13 is derived from when you factor in adult health incomes. So again, the experience that young children have in those early years carries lifelong benefits, including, according to Mr. Heckman, lesser degrees of heart disease and diabetes, in addition to things like more apt to finish high school, more apt to go to college, higher earnings, lower utilization of public benefits. It's really difficult to find any kind of program that offers the same kind of return on investment as does early care and learning.
So obviously there are two parts to the equation of universal child care. One, obviously, we do have to get a bill that's going to have the fiscal impact and how we are going to pay for it. And then there's the other piece, which is if we do have universal child care, do we have enough child care slots and facilities to be able to sustain that type
Right.
of program.
Right.
What are some of the challenges that you and your staff are dealing with? Because I know when my wife and I had our first child, we were living on the east side of Manhattan, and we both were working, and we needed to find childcare for our then 6-month-old.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing and only thing I cared about was it safe?
Mm-hmm.
Were the folks qualified? Were we now going to be able to put our son in a safe environment for 8, 9, 10 hours a day?
Yeah. So what are the challenges? Well, there are multiple, and they're not necessarily easy to solve. First, let me say that in order for the U.S. or New York State or Westchester to really achieve that approach to childcare, it's going to take serious federal investment. It's not something the state can do by itself. It certainly isn't something the county can do by itself, which again is why I'm so proud of what Westchester is doing in the short term. And I believe that the Build Back Better bill that President Biden offered several years ago was an effort to get there. And obviously it didn't go very far. So what are the problems right now? Is there adequate supply? No, there is not an adequate supply. Pattern for Progress just released a childcare report, and they looked at the childcare that's available in 9 counties that they cover in their region. And they found that Westchester County is the only county of the 9 that has not lost childcare supply in the last decade or so. The other counties have lost 26, 40% of their regulated childcare supply. Why is that? It's a done well, it's a complicated business to run, and there's absolutely no margin. And the most parents, almost every parent, cannot afford to pay what a quality childcare program would need to charge. Can't do it. And there's not enough public investment. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, I think 2 years ago, that childcare is an example of when the free market doesn't work. It really is going to require significant more investment. Now, why is the supply in Westchester more stable than other counties? I don't really know. I've been talking to Adam Posh at Patent for Progress to try to dig into that, figure that out. It might be in part because Westchester Works has enabled, again, about over 500 children per year to have care purchased locally on their behalf, expanding the available pool of customers. I have to think that's a factor. Whether that's the only factor or not, I don't know.
Our guest for this episode of Advocacy Unplugged is Kathy Halas, who is the Executive Director of the Child Care Council of Westchester. So we've talked about on the county level, we have the Westchester Works program. We have talked on the state level, again, what we are going to need if we are going to have universal child care. But there, you just mentioned, again, the federal piece. And obviously the federal government has to play a role in this. When I was doing your bio, I mentioned that you've just recently joined Senator Gillibrand's task force. Talk to us a little bit about the work the task force is doing. And are you, as a member of that, beginning to drive the conversation into how are we going to be able to afford that and the dollars that are going to have to come through Washington?
Yeah, well, I certainly hope so. Senator Gillibrand has always had a robust childcare portfolio and very knowledgeable, certainly, about the subject. She convened the working group to try to determine some actions that could be taken in the near term. So I know that she knows that there are larger issues out there to be discussed and resolved. But one of the things that we've been focused on is improving compensation for the workforce. Childcare. We did a salary study that we released, I think, in December, and we saw that the average childcare educator in a local center makes 44% less than an entry-level kindergarten teacher. Salaries have gone up over the years of the pandemic because childcare programs, which remained largely open during that time, were obviously desperate to remain staffed. But currently there are shortages of folks in childcare programs, and that has sometimes limited enrollment. So with the senator, we're looking at what other kinds of things might be made available. Is there a way to offer additional health care for people coming into the profession? Is there a way to offer tax credits to induce people to come into the profession? So I think that's kind of our focus right now. Is again trying to figure out ways to open up the trajectory of people coming into the field.
Well, Westchester County and New York State is lucky to have Kathy Halas, who serves as the Executive Director of the Childcare Council of Westchester, really, again, leading the efforts to educate businesses, educate elected officials, but most importantly, helping families find that right spot for their children. Kathy, if you want to just give your organization's phone number and website so that people can learn more about the work you do every day.
Sure. Our phone number is 914-761-3456, extension 140. And if I could add, John, that we have skilled counselors, bilingual, and we are happy to go to community events, to employers. We will go anywhere, anytime, to make sure that parents know about the services and the financial assistance that is there for them.
Well, and that's why the Child Care Council of Westchester plays such a critical role in this important issue. And again, we've seen since the pandemic, obviously, I think more and more people are realizing that we have to get to work. We really do have to dig in and lean into this issue, and we at the Business Council of Westchester will continue to work with the Child Care Council of Westchester on this to do that as well. This is John Ravitz, the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Business Council of Westchester. You've been listening to Advocacy Unplugged, which is part of the BCW podcast network. The BCW is the county's largest business membership organization focusing on economic development and advocacy with over 1,100 members. It's our mission to work for the profitability of our members and the prosperity of Westchester's community. To learn more about the BCW, please go to our website, which is thebcw.org. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with another episode of Advocacy Unplugged soon.